So first I'm going to do a situation. When benefit slash credit, both these words can be used, slash credit of firm underwriting is not given to individual underwriters. Is not given to individual underwriters. Given benefits slash credit of firm underwriting is not given to individual underwriters. And the second statement I'm going to do when it is given. Okay, we'll do it two separately. So we, as usual, we have statement showing liability of underwriters. Statement showing liability of underwriters. So we start as usual, particulars. The underwriters are A, B, and C. Okay, so we start with gross liability. That is how much each one, how much responsibility each one has taken overall. So if you check the gross liability for A, it's 12,000, B 5,000, and C it is 3,000. Okay. Then as usual we minus the marked applications, less marked applications. Marked applications. Okay, marked applications in favor are here, they've been given 2,000. Then we have 4,000 and we also have 1,000. So deducting this, we will get, here it comes down to 10,000, here it comes down to 1,000, and this comes down to 2,000. Next, we minus unmarked applications. Now, when we are minusing unmarked applications, we need to be careful. Okay. Now, since we are there is firm underwriting in the problem, and since we are solving under the scenario where benefit or credit of firm underwriting is not given to individual underwriters, what happens? If it's not given, firm underwriting shall be treated as unmarked applications. Firm underwriting shall be treated as unmarked applications. So that firm underwriting, we will just calculate the unmarked applications. Calculation of unmarked applications, a small working note. Calculation of unmarked applications. Now, the total subscriptions that have been received from the public are 10,000 shares. Okay, total subscriptions. Total subscriptions are 10,000 shares. Out of this the marked applications. If you put the mark, how will we get out of this 10,000 marked applications are 2,000, 4,000 and 1,000, what I have already minus. So that comes to 2 plus 6, 7,000. That comes to 7,000. Okay. So basically our unmarked applications are basically 3,000. Our unmarked applications are 3,000. Actual unmarked applications are 3,000. Okay, the total applications from the public, total subscriptions or applications from the public are 10,000. That is, the public have subscribed to 10,000 shares, out of which marked applications are 7,000. That is received in favor of each underwriter bearing this stamp. The remaining have been received by the company directly, which are 3,000. Now, since there is firm underwriting in the problem here, okay, we also need to minus firm underwriting. Now we are doing what happens here in my working note, this working note, I am minusing firm underwriting. Now I told you there are two ways of minusing firm underwriting. If we solve under benefit not given or credit not given, firm underwriting shall be treated as unmarked applications. That is, you have to add your firm underwriting to unmarked applications. Okay, you have to add your firm underwriting to unmarked applications and then minus the whole thing. Okay, so I will put the next note now. Total unmarked applications are equal to 3,000 plus the total firm underwriting. And how much is the total firm underwriting? I've already calculated. It's 4,200. And what is this 4,200? It is 16 plus 6 plus 2,000. 16 plus 6 plus 2,000. So basically our total unmarked applications are 7,000. Our total unmarked applications are 7,200. What I've done is I found out my actual unmarked applications, and to that I've added firm underwriting. And this entire 7,200 now we are going to minus as unmarked applications. That's the meaning of this. Firm underwriting shall be treated as unmarked applications. The actual unmarked applications are 3,000, but I've added 4,200 because we have firm underwriting, and we are following a scenario where we are treating firm underwriting as unmarked. So this entire 7,200 will have to be divided in the ratio of gross liability. How unmarked applications would normally be divided. Okay, so 7,200 divide in the ratio of the gross liability. And what's the gross liability? If you take this, nothing, you cannot divide it by any number. So it's going to be 12 is to 5 is to 3. 12 is to 5 is to 3. So if you divide this 12 is to 5, 7,200 in the ratio of 12 is to 5 is to 3, you get 4,320. Then you get 1,800, and you also get 1080. 1080. So what we are doing here is this 7,200, we are minusing two things. We are minusing the firm underwriting plus the unmarked application. Public subscription is marked plus unmarked. We are minusing firm underwriting plus the unmarked applications. Marked applications have already, marked applications always minus separately. Okay, so here we have minus two things. Fine. So next, just calculate this. We will get an amount of 5680. 5680. Then here we have a surplus of 800, and here we have 920. 2000 minus 1080, we get 920. Now since we have a surplus, there's nothing else to be minus. Everything is already minus. Since we have a surplus, what we do is less surplus of B allocated to A and C in the ratio of gross liability. In the ratio of gross liability. So that 800 has to be divided in the ratio of, here it's 12 and here it's 3. So it's going to be divided in the ratio of 12 is to 3. Or since you're talking about 12 is to 3, you can also say 4 is to 1. Okay, it's up to you. 12 is to 3 or 4 is to 1. So here you will get 640. This will become plus 800 since we are giving it to somebody, dividing it with the other two. And here it becomes, this is 160. Whatever it is, 640 plus 160 has to come to 800. Okay. Then we minus this and we will get 5680 minus 640 is basically 5040. 5040. Here there is nothing. That means B has to take up nothing. And 920 minus 160 is actually 760. Okay. So let's check our answer now. 5040 plus 760 comes to 5,000. Sorry, 5040 plus 760 comes to 5,800. If you add this. Okay. And that is what we were looking for. So basically, under the overall agreement, the part that the public have not subscribed to, B does not have to take up anything. Okay, B does not have to take up anything. A has to take up 5040 shares and C has to take up 760. That means this remaining 5,800 that nobody took up. The remaining 5,800 that nobody took up, these two will have to take it. These two will have to take it. Okay, so we call this liability. We call this liability as per agreement. Okay, what's the meaning of liability as per agreement? What they had agreed, if the public did not subscribe to a certain portion of shares, they will divide it among themselves. Okay, and then we also find out the total shares each underwriter has to take up. For example, A has to take up these shares plus also his firm underwriting. B doesn't have to take up any shares here, but B still has to buy those shares under firm underwriting, or he has already bought them. What we try to find here is the total shares that each of the underwriter has to take up, or the shares in total. So add firm underwriting. Add firm underwriting. We add each one's firm underwriting back. 1,600. Here we have 600, and here we have 2,000. Okay, this we call net liability. So net liability, that means A has to take up 5040 plus 1,600. 5040 is that as per agreement that nobody has taken up. And 160 is what he had initially decided to take up. So the total he has to take up is 6640. This guy has to take up, B has to take up nothing under agreement, only 600 under firm underwriting, so only that much. And C has to take up 760 under the agreement and 2000 under firm underwriting, so that becomes 276. Okay, so what we have done, I'll just explain, run through the whole thing again. We are trying to find out the total shares that were issued. I will actually put this note up. The total shares that were issued, this is just a simple calculation. The total shares that were issued are 20,000. Out of that, underwriters decided in advance to take up 4,200 and the public subscribed to 10,000. So minusing all that, 5,800 were not taken up by anybody. So we need to find out how this 5,800 will be divided among the underwriters. Now since there is firm underwriting in the problem, firm underwriting can be treated in two ways. You either treat it as unmarked applications and add it to unmarked applications, or we are going to see the second method where each firm's firm underwriting is minus from their respective gross liability. In both cases, it is minus. Okay, in both cases. Here also it's minus. How it's minus in the 7,200. You've added it here and then you've minused it as in the ratio of gross liability. Okay, so after minusing marked, unmarked, in case there's any surplus, divide the surplus. You find out how much from the remaining each of the underwriters have to take up. And then you do a calculation where you check the total that they have to take. That's 1,600, or the total part of it has already been taken up. 1,600 actually, 600 and 2,000 has already been taken up. We're just doing this calculation to see how many shares have been taken up by each of them under the agreement and as per firm underwriting. Is that clear, students? Is that clear? Any questions? Anyone has any questions? If there are no questions, then I'm going to the next statement. Anyone has any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to solve the second way. Okay, I will go ahead to the second one. Okay, now we are going to solve under when benefit or credit of firm underwriting is given to individual underwriter. Okay, here we had said not given and therefore added it to for marked unmarked applications. Now we are going to solve under where benefit is given. So we start the same way. Gross liability. So of A it's 12,000, B it's 5,000 and C it is 3,000. Gross liability. Then you minus each one's marked applications. Same way, what we are doing right now is the same thing, less marked applications. Less marked applications. So if you minus the marked applications 2,000, 4,000 and 1,000. So check here, you'll get 10,000. Liability has come down to 10,000. Here it's 1,000 and here it's 2,000. Okay. Next, we calculate unmarked applications. Less unmarked applications. less unmarked applications. Now again, okay, minus now we are again we'll calculate. We'll do like we'll do the same thing again, but let's see how our unmarked applications are different. So I'm going to copy something here. Okay, I'm going to so working on the same thing, calculation of unmarked applications. Total subscriptions are 10,000. Less marked applications are 7,000. Unmarked applications are basically 3,000. Now, since we are solving under benefit given, unmarked application, firm underwriting does not have to be added to unmarked applications. Okay, you minus your unmarked applications as they are. You minus the unmarked applications as they are. You don't have to add firm underwriting to this because it said here in the note when credit for benefit is given, firm underwriting shall be deducted from the gross liability. It didn't say shall be treated as unmarked applications. So this 3,000, I'm just going to minus in the ratio of gross liability. 3,000 in the ratio of 12 is to 5 is to 3. Okay, so if I take that 3,000 in the ratio of 12 is to 5 is to 3, I will get 1,800. Here it will be 750, and here it will be 450. 1,800, 750 plus 450, yeah. 1,800, 750, 450. Now just see how it is different. Okay, here your unmarked applications were 7,200. Why it was 7,000? Because I added firm underwriting. Because that's how you treat it when benefit is not given. But here I minus the unmarked applications purely as unmarked applications. I've not added anything to it. Okay, so see what we get here. Here it will be 8,200, 250, and here it will be 1,550. 1,550. Okay, so what we have done, we have minus the marked, we have minus the unmarked, but here we are minus unmarked and firm put together. Now I need to minus the firm. What happens is here, I need to minus the firm. But in this case, since we are solving under benefit given, we are solving under benefit of firm underwriting given, I'm going to minus each one's firm from their respective gross liability. What does that mean? So I'll say less firm underwriting, firm underwriting. I will take each one's firm underwriting. So for example, A is 1,6, B is 6, and C is 2,000. So here it's 1,6, here it is 6, and here it is 2,000. What is the difference between the two methods? Here I've added firm underwriting to this and I'm dividing the entire thing in this ratio. But here I'm giving each one's benefit of firm underwriting. I've not taken A's and I minus from B or taken B's and minus from C. I'm minusing each one from their respective gross liability. But here what I did, I just put it together with this 3,000 and I'm divided in a totally different ratio. So basically what will happen, even though C has the highest firm underwriting, A will get a bigger chunk of it because A's ratio is 12 and C's ratio is the least. So that's the difference. Okay, that's why this is called benefit given because you're actually giving the benefit of each one's firm underwriting to them. Here it's called benefit not given because you're not giving each one's benefit to them, but you're just minusing it in a general ratio. So in both cases we are minusing it, but in different ways. In both cases we are minusing it, but in different ways. Okay, so if I do this calculation, what I will get 6,600. Here there is a surplus. Actually, the liability was 250, but right now he's got more than that in his favor. So basically, the surplus here will be 350. And here there will again be a surplus. The liability was 1,550, and he got 2,000 in his favor. So here it's going to be 450, surplus of 450. Okay. So that's it. We have minus everything. We have minus everything. Marked Firm underwriting has been minus. Public subscription marked and unmarked have been minus. Okay. Now, since there is a surplus, what we are going to do is, this is 350, sorry. Since here there is a surplus, less, we have to allocate that surplus. Less surplus of B and C allocated to A. B and C allocated to A. Now, since it's just one person to be allocated to, I don't need to divide this in any ratio. I just need to add it up. So, 350 plus 450 will come to 800. Okay, so this becomes plus 350. This becomes plus 450. That is nullified. So, this is going to become 5,800. This is nil. And this is. So, after minusing everything, we have realized that if you check our earlier calculation, 5,800 were the shares that nobody had to take up. If you realize that if you solve under this agreement or this method, the entire 5,800 which have not been taken up by anybody, A has to take it up. And B and C don't have to take up anything. Why is the difference? Because of the way we have solved it, of the benefit of home underwriting given or not given. Okay, so the entire 5,800 has to be taken up by A. B and C will only have to take up their firm underwriting, nothing from the leftover. So we call this liability as per agreement. We call this liability as per agreement. Liability as per agreement. That means the entire 5,800 has to be taken up by only A. And then towards the end, we add to see how many shares they have to take up in total. Add firm underwriting. This we do only to see how many shares they have to take up with the agreement and with the firm underwriting. And each one's firm underwriting is 1/6. Here it is 6 and here it is 2,000. Okay. So this is net liability. Net liability. So for A, he has to take up 5,800 plus 1,600. So the total is 7,400. B has to take up only his firm underwriting and C also only the firm. Is that clear?